November 2nd, 2019. Today I want to talk about a program at New York libraries, libraries in New York City, and it's known as the Drag Queens Story Hour, DQSH is the abbreviation, and this is a program initiated by libraries in the state of New York for drag queens to go in and speak to school children and have a story hour with them. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who was office manager at the West Toledo and Sylvania weekly newspapers in Ohio, where I was managing editor, Jackie Giroux. Jax, thanks for bringing this one up. I think you're right. This is indoctrination, or an attempt at indoctrination to indoctrinate the youth into the idea that drag queen culture is a lot more accepted than it is. And in reality, it's part of entertainment in our world. Of course, Vegas. And then, I lived in New Orleans, where it wasn't just men dressing up like women as drag queens. There were hermaphrodites in New Orleans, and these were men who had breasts because of hormone therapy. And at one bar right off Bourbon, just past the corner of Canal, a little ways down Bourbon, there's a bar, and their slogan is "All our women are men," and it is men in drag with breasts most of the time, sometimes not. And you don't have to be a hermaphrodite to be a drag queen, but authenticity reigns in New Orleans, and it's part of the song and dance culture of Bourbon Street. It's been there for a long time. So the reality is we are open to views. We are open to all views. And when I lived in New Orleans from when I was 19 to 21, I got exposed to a lot of this. And I knew a couple of younger guys who were just barely 18 that got hooked up with people they thought were women that turned out to be men. And of course, they found out along the way, one way or another, which is a whole nother story. And I still remember you, Brandon. I'll never forget that story. Nonetheless, getting back to it, we're going to indoctrinate school children into being or seeing that being a drag queen is a normal side of life. And even though I think a young adult would know the difference, we have so many people now that cross-dress, and I don't think that's really a big deal either. It's a choice. But the life of being different is not always an easy one. But as Jackie points out, more than anything, these drag queens are going in doing striptease acts in front of these children. These men, as she said, she saw it as perverse indoctrination into a lifestyle that's not realistic in any form of the word and could also harm these children. And these drag queens are asking these school-age children if they want to become a drag queen or if they want to know what it's like to be a drag queen. And not unlike Adolf Hitler with the Hitler Youth or the Hitler Jugend, where he would get young men and women involved in fitness programs, which is healthy, just to prep them to be in his army later. It was indoctrination of the youth with the Hitler Youth. Now, the Hitler Jugend, the same thing here. So we have people at different ways. I don't think we would want a heterosexual male going in there with two women in bikinis and saying, "Oh, the boys, you should be like me," and to the girls, "You should be like them," and there's two of them for every guy, which actually makes sense to me when I think about women in bikinis. You know what I mean? Maybe I do need to. But I wouldn't do that in front of school children. I hardly do it at my house with the lights out. Now, nonetheless, humor's good. I appreciate all forms of art. Men who cross-dress and or half women, hermaphrodites, if you will. And I get it. It's no problem. But for kids, I don't think we want to indoctrinate them into one way of thinking or another. Yeah, you want to present everything that's out there, but not all at once. And because of the internet now and cell phones, they're exposed to these things way younger than you think. And the next thing you know, your son Butch is probably going to be wearing a dress. And it might not be for fun. It might be permanent. And hopefully when you ask him, he won't tell you, well, these drag queens came into the library for reading hour and told me when I was 8 years old that being a drag queen was cool. I'm like, okay then. So what does it all mean? One more attempt at indoctrination by people wanting people to be like them into their lifestyle, which is 10,000 of 1% in America. Sure, Vegas, New Orleans, even the big cities, you see this happening, but in mainstream life, drag queens are not all that popular, and they're not that many. Minorities vocal, we get it. Any minority is vocal, and a minority of drag queens too, but you can't indoctrinate the youth. You got to let them become who they want to be, and they'll decide if they want to wear dresses on Saturday night and entertain just off Bourbon Street. I hope y'all have a good night. Peace out, y'all. Take care.